Okay, we are almost there. We're gonna just do another layer, and this one is for that that glow that we want to highlight. We want to make it as visible as possible. We want to be able to control it and just play with that so that we have a bit more fun in the final look. And in this case, again, because it comes from the original shader, we can just simply duplicate the shader that has the color information. So I'm gonna go and say again, copy, and then I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna paste that way, and this one I'm gonna call it emission. You can really call it whatever you want, but I'm gonna just call it emission. And I'm going to open it up here. I already had done on this one, if you remember. Let me try doing that one more time here under the character's body, if I'm not wrong. Yep. I'm gonna highlight it in my hyper shade right there, and that one is already, the specular and the base are where they need to be, and I already had the emission turned off in the color, so I'm good there. That means that I go to the emission here, and in this case under the emission shader, the emission layer, I'm going to go and create an override for the base. I still want the base to be off, so I'm going to create an absolute override there. I'm going to go and do one for the specular, also turn it off, create an absolute override right there. And in this case, I'm going to bring the emission all the way up. I'm going to create an absolute override for it. You can see it shows up already here. So I'm going to go and render my layer. So you see now my glow show up here. That means I can use that to overlay on top of my creature and to highlight more of that. Now, there is one thing this one has though, and this one is showing metalness. So metalness is actually becoming an issue because this reflection here, I don't want that to show up on my glow or emission. So what I'm actually going to have to do is I'm going to have to go back to my color, and I'm going to make sure that my character's shader, make sure this is it, there it is. I'm going to have to create an override, turn off the override for that one, make sure this is the monster skin, yes. I'm going to create an override for the metalness, that way it's off there. I'm going to go under the specular, there we go, turn it on there. And I'm going to, and the specular layer, I'm going to actually make sure that I have it in the right place. I'm on the specular layer. I'm going to turn on the metalness a little bit on my specular layer. Can we just keep selected there? I forget what the number was, but I'll try to keep it there. And I'm going to go now to, let me just minimize this, that makes it easier, under my emission. And under the emission, I'm going to bring it down to 0 again. Absolute. So let me double check and minimize all of them to see how it changes. So under the emission is 0, under specular is 0.38, under color is 0, which is great. So let me just test it again just to see how that looks under my emissions, under my emission layer. Oh, it's still showing up on the eye. I think I made a mistake. I'm gonna make sure that I did it on the eye, because I was thinking on the body and not the eye. There is the eye. Okay, double checking it again. So under the eye, let's go to the color layer, and I'm gonna highlight that shader. I'm gonna click on the eye geometry, bring the shader by clicking the little icon there. There is my shader for the eye. Alright, here we go. That was the one. So That means that I have to go back and correct the metalness for some of the other ones. I think emission I made wrong for the body. Alright, so let me just try doing it here. So we're gonna do under the color, we're gonna bring metalness down to 0. Absolutely right. Under the specular, we are going to maintain it at 0.5 for now. That's fine. Set key. I'm sorry. Create absolute override, and then under emission is going to be down to 0. Okay. So that was it for the eyeball. I'm gonna try to revise the one for the geometry, because the one for the geometry, I think I messed it up because I thought I was working on the eyeball. So let me click on the geometry, on the shader for the body. So making sure under emission, I don't want the body to be doing metalness, which is good. Under the specular, I do not want the body to look metallic. This body is not metallic at all. So that one. And under the color, I don't want the metalness to show up. Okay, so that's good. All right, that makes it a little bit more believable. I hope it's making sense for everybody. Now, I want to also add here, since we have color, shadow, ambient occlusion, specular, and emission, I'm going to create another one, and this one is for creating a wireframe so that we can do our compositing sequence. So I'm going to add a layer here, and it's going to call it wireframe. And then again, I'm going to create a new composite collection for it. This wireframe collection. And then I'm going to, of course, into that, I'm going to add just simply the geometry of my character. And I'm just going to add that one there. And for this one, we're going to create a shader override. And that shader override, we're going to create from the Arnold shaders. We're going to look for one that is called AI wireframe. There it is, wireframe. So now if I go and test it, this is what it gives me. Let's just see it for a moment. Okay, so this is what it's giving me. I can see my eye is showing the wireframe, the body showing something, but it's not quite there, and there are a couple of different reasons for that. First of all, if you look at the shader that we have for the wireframe shader that we just created, that override that we created, it's using triangles. So when I just make that to use polygons, right? So that way it'll show me just squares. Second, the color and the thickness of the line is 1. So we can see how it changes with that. I'll just go a quick test of this. So that fixed the eye, but still the body is not working. And I have a sign that it is working, but it's not completely working. And one of the reasons for that is because, as you remember, our character has all this bumpiness, and this bumpiness is coming from the displacement, and the displacement is based on a high density geometry. So what does that mean? It means that if you remember, when we created the displacement, we used a under the geometries, you can see, click on the geometry here, you can see under the geometry Arnold, remember the subdivision that we used the Cat-Clark displacement with 5 iterations of 4, so that's what is making the geometry denser for the rendering. So what I need to do here is I need to go back and keep my geometry back on the other layers, I need to maintain that iteration at 5 because that's the value that, sorry, made mistake, it's not a key. I'm gonna do that. Do one more time. Okay, let's see if it's doing it. There we go. It's not a key, I just said a key by accident. It's absolute override. So I'm gonna go to my ambient occlusion, and then I say absolute override there, and then I'm gonna go to my specular and absolute override there, and then I go on my emissions and then absolute override there, and then I go under my wireframe and I bring it back to 0 and I create an absolute override there. Let me test it to see how that looks now. There is, it took a lot less time. Still is heavy, but it's not as heavy as it was before. It's still showing a low, high res model because the model is in mode 3 on my keyboard. Unfortunately, that one I don't think I can create an override for, although if that means I could probably render this out separately. What I mean by that is that if I did one on my keyboard so that I can see the low resolution version of the character, and if I test render out that, you see I get to see his very really low res version. So I could render out just this frame if I wanted to, or just individually, or I can render out the higher version that shows a bit more of a smooth version of my character. Okay, so I have color, shadow, ambient occlusion, specular, emission, and wireframe all ready to be used to export out to After Effects. Of course, we have to render it, but first we want to do that in a different video.